Sorry, the mute was on the microphones because I'm going to play this video here. Let's get right into it. And I'm going to interrupt this video because they get into, of course, every chance they get, they got to talk about the January 6th insurrection. So they switch in midstream and start talking about that. So when that happens, I'm going to interrupt it. And then there's one reply. So give me just a few seconds. I'm going to mute on my side that I have for her. Doesn't she remind you of like Jane Curtin who used to be on Saturday Night Live? Anyway, let's take a look. Here are the Arizona results we've all been waiting for. Okay, here we go, guys. And the results. Or my reply, actually.
Well, tonight, the Republican-led review of the 2020 election in Arizona is in, and it confirms President Biden's victory there by an even larger margin. It also comes as the House committee investigating the January 6th riot has subpoenaed 4 associates of former President Trump. Here's CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
Tonight, a Republican push to overturn November's election results in Arizona hit a snag. It turns out President Biden did win, and then some. A months-long review of ballots in Maricopa County, 2.1 million in all, found that President Biden's 45,000-vote victory grew slightly. It found him 99 more votes and 261 fewer for former President Trump. What, if any, comment does the White House have on the apparent results of the new GOP-backed review of ballots in Maricopa County?
It confirmed what we have all known for some time and what millions and millions of people in the country know.
The review, funded by nearly $6 million from Trump supporters, was run by Cyber Ninjas, a firm with no prior experience running official election audits. County officials said the review, which also cost taxpayers $425,000, was littered with errors and faulty conclusions. During the hand recount, volunteers spent weeks searching for signs of fraud. Many of the state's top Republicans called it a waste of time, pushed without evidence by the former president.
There's absolutely no evidence of fraud. So he's simply making this up.
But similar 2020 election probes are ramping up with Trump's support in other states, including Texas, where state officials this week announced a review of 4 counties after Trump called for it. Meanwhile, 4 key Trump associates have been called to testify about the president.
Okay, and now a short reply is coming.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
There we have it. So, what do you think of the results, guys? How'd you like the cost? It cost taxpayers $400,000. I think we're spending that about every 25 seconds on COVID, and we're spending it about every 8 seconds on the debt that we owe. Iron, this is totally not true. Congratulations on the widely accepted banana republics. BS, this would count as a huge fail. Sounds cheap to you. Here we go. What's this? Did anyone expect anything different? Tomorrow to be Trump 2024. Well, let's take a look. I've got a couple of things ready for you guys. And then we're going to get into talking about why water flows downhill. Believe it or not. Let's see. Now, I'm going to share this this little paint screen with you. And hold on a moment. What the heck is going on? Every time I got to do paint in StreamYard, it gives me something. I'm going to have to make this large, and it's going to blur out on you guys. I'm sorry. It's low quality. I had to grab this from Telegram. but it's a direct capture. This is as best it gets. So I will read this to you. Wow. All right, here we go. StreamYard does not like paint. I can tell you that. Draft, this is from Huffington Post. Draft report of Arizona sham audit confirms Biden's win over Trump. The draft also reportedly found that Biden won Maricopa County by a larger margin than official results showed. Business Insider on MSN. Trump accused Democrats of trying to distract from the Arizona audit results, seemingly unaware that they confirmed Biden's victory. Trump, in a statement late Thursday, did not seem aware that the result of the Arizona audit, which he had hyped for months, did blah, blah, blah. Market Watch on MSN. Cyber Ninja's putative audit of Maricopa County election results widens Biden margin over Trump, reports. The draft report from Cyber Ninja's confirms the county's caucus of 2020 general election was accurate, and I'm sure they say perfect. CNN's John Berman, Arizona. This is Forbes reporting this. CNN's John Berman. Arizona sham audit proves Donald Trump even bigger loser than first time. And last, well, we got two left. I thought they would save the worst for last, but they didn't. It's next to last. MSNBC. Sham audit backfires on the Arizona GOP. Biden won by a wider margin. Trump had told the people, blah, blah, blah. Yahoo News. Oh, that's a good source. Trump allies. Arizona election audit confirms Biden victory. The hand recount election results. Biden defeated the former president by a greater margin. I'm sure that's how the sentence finishes. So there you have it. Now, what did I say? I said the results aren't really what matters. It's how it's reported. And I said there was going to be three things that were going to happen. They were either going to report it honestly, or they weren't going to report it at all, or they were going to flat out lie about it. They chose the last. You all can go if you want and find the actual results. There's a PDF that's got many pages. Here's the bottom line. Hundreds of thousands, when you add it all up, of votes were wrong. Tens of thousands of people voted that shouldn't have. All kind of irregularities were found, and the conclusion was Arizona needs to decertify the election. But guess what? The old saying that we had in the old saying we had in sales was perception is reality. Now, I've listened to some of these hopium people, and they were like, if the results come out and the media lies about it or covers it up, either one, they've chosen the former, they've lied about it. Actually, they've done both. It took quite a while to actually find media sources. They're still talking about Gabby and her boyfriend, and they're talking about fires in LA, and they're talking about January 6th, and people indicted for that or asked to come in for questioning. Way before you get to anything about the election. But when they talk about the election, it's all what you just saw, what I just read, what you saw from Jane, that ignorant slut. Oh, just to induce vomiting, show her picture. Anyway, so it doesn't matter what the real results are. Most people, and there were some people in here, I think, that was like, oh, well, it was wrong. Most people are going to go by what the mainstream media is. My son can now say, see, Dad, you were wrong. And he's got the mainstream media backing him up. But anyway, a couple of these hopium channels, can't remember which one they were, wish I could. I think I know who one is, but I don't want to imply. They said, if the media covers it up or lies, that will be the clue, that will be the final straw for the media, for the military, and the military would take immediate action. They would stop this behind-the-scenes stuff. They would come forward and take control publicly. Well, let's find out how immediate action is. Now's the time. I even heard Q is now in witness protection. Oh, Austin. I got a Google notification. I probably just got a copyright strike for playing that CBS. What? Okay, something totally unrelated. You got it, Cam. Go. I will never step into a booth. Guess what? I told someone today. Someone called it where I've donated blood before, and they're like, "We need you to donate blood." I said, "Well, okay. Do you require a mask?" Yes. Nope. Don't call me. Don't call me. Not going to wear a mask. I said, "Tell your supervisors whatever. I'm not coming in to give blood. I have O negative. They like my blood." I said, "No." And the woman I spoke to, she was like, we could talk all day. She was an anti-jabber, and she was talking about how her daughter, who works in healthcare, was told that they were going to let her go by the 15th. Pardon me, they were going to fire her by the 15th if she didn't, you know what. So they called her in for an update. Are you still holding out? Yes. Okay, well, we need your resignation by October 1st. That's what they want you to do. I told her, I said, tell your daughter, don't do it. She said, I already told her. I said, make them fire you. So people are waking up to that crap. Persian, the so-called White Hats, especially in the military, don't exist in any real sense regarding unwinding all this buffoonery. Persian, I would say all the evidence at this moment is on your side. Yep, Cam, go. I'm over too. I'm over a lot of stuff. That's right. They don't take plasma. We looked this up one time, Twisted Clan. They don't take plasma. The Red Cross, anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but the Red Cross doesn't take plasma if you've been vaxxed. But if you haven't been vaxxed, they'll take it. Yep, Vintage. I saw a different guy today at the gym. I swear. Let me get something here. Pardon me a moment. Pardon me. This is worth it. He walks in. I happened to be facing. I was resting in between sets, and I was facing sort of the entrance. He comes in, and then there's a table with all the spray bottles, that everybody picks up, but nobody wipes down the spray bottles. He picks up a spray bottle. He just walked in, but I guess he had to handle the door. And he's had to be dripping all over his hands. And then he's doing all of this, rubbing it all in and everything. So I just looked away. I was like, I don't need to be upset here. Later, he walks beside me, and he does a brand new exercise that I've never seen. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's at my age, you would probably get rid of 3 or 4 good ligaments. Some kind of throwing up like this or whatever. But he's got this soaking wet with the spray. And he's got it's matted into his hand. It's so wet, it's formed to his hand size, to his hand. And he's got one in each hand, and he grabs the dumbbells and he does his ligament busters, and then he sits them down, and they stick to the dumbbells. They're so soaking wet. Then I'm driving home later, and I was like, "What is wrong with this lane?" It was like one of the middle lanes, 5-lane highway. I was like, "What is wrong with this lane?" The lane I was in, of course. And so I looked well enough ahead. I was like, oh, there's one person going way below the speed limit in one of the middle lanes. So eventually, people are peeling off left and right to get around this person. And it just got worse and worse as I got closer. And I was like, uh-oh, we got a moron here. It's a line from Al Pacino in Son of a Woman. Anyway, I was like, oh, we got a moron here. And I pull beside him and look over. What do I see? And he's the only one in the car. I was like, boy, I called that right. And why do all these people do all this stupid stuff? Because they believe the mainstream media. And the mainstream media had to be taken care of when Trump was in office, and he didn't freaking do it. I don't care what anybody says. He didn't do it. He had the House. He had the Senate. It's a simple... write it out of the law just like they wrote it in under Clinton, where they can't lie. They can be held. They can lie, but they're held accountable if they do. That accountability was taken away under Clinton. Very simple. In fact, why didn't they do an executive order like everybody else does? I'm against executive orders, but why didn't they do an executive order and then let it go through the court system? But while it's through the court system, it's still upheld. But at least you could make people aware of what needs to be done. See, with that, because that wasn't taken care of, we're in this crap mess we're in today. Not only with this and this, but what I just showed you. Yes, he really had the House and the Senate. He did, for 2 years. And here's the deal. It was popular by the American people. Democrats could have gotten behind it too. It wasn't a dead partisan issue. Need to do a little beans day before the gym and show how well the beat mass works. Something else about that, so kind of like we have 50 senators now. We had 53 or 54 in Trump's first term. When he was elected, it was 52 at least. 52 at least. I think it grew one. It grew one or two in the midterms. But no, there was no. In case a couple of the Republicans peeled off, that's when the vice president would show up, Pence, to break the tie. That only had to happen once or twice. But anyway, no, there was a majority. There was a majority. I'll give you the number. Senate, okay, 115th Congress, they set in 2017. Senate majority, Republican. Senate President, Joe Biden until January 20th, then Mike Pence from January 20th, 17 on. House majority, Republican. You can't get a freaking straight answer. I know it was at least 51, at least, because Pence didn't always have to be there unless there was like a Susan Collins or somebody ready to peel off. But he would have gotten some Democrats. He would have got the West Virginia Democrat. He would have gotten 2 or 3 in the South too. It wasn't a partisan thing. And besides, like I said, he could have done like Biden's done. Do we actually have 51st Republican senators now? Perhaps 11 actually considered Republicans and 39 rhinos. I don't know what we have. I think we have 1 good Republican and 49 rhinos or whatever it is. I can only think of 1 Republican senator right now that I actually would keep. 1. But like I said, he could have done a lot more. He could have made it an issue other than just saying fake news. He could have done an executive order. Biden's done executive orders for things that never have been thought of done before. Busy Mountain, it's all crap show now. So now we wait for the response. Let's see if the truth starts to wind out there with the people. I don't think it's going to, because people are just going to say, see, look, they're lying. Yeah, Rand Paul is about the only one, and there's still a couple things I wouldn't have him in there for. Probably. I can't think of one specifically, but he's anti-war no matter what. Praise God. Whatever happened to, see, Republicans are supposed to be the Christians and the moralists or whatever. Whatever happened to blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall see God. And he does. He's against any intrusion of government, especially the kind we're having. Nope, Ted Cruz, sorry, no. No. Not for me. Ted Cruz bends easily to the whip of the military-industrial complex. I'm not saying he's bad. Tyson, yeah. Rand Paul is a libertarian who doesn't say he is. Very smart. See, his father said he was. Not so smart. Yes, the U.S. dollar is fiat-based, which means all fiat currencies throughout history, zero exceptions, all go to their intrinsic value, which is zero. And I don't know what Trump is doing, Vintage says, with his rallies. Didn't do a thing about the rigged machines, the mail-in ballots, and he could have issued voter ID cards during his 4 years and didn't. That's another good point, voter ID cards. There was no press for voter, there was some, but not a lot of pressure to change voter laws. He said what they'll do with the COVID thing was they would use that to do what they did. But that was just, it was a prediction. I agree, John, 100%. Don't get caught in the left right. Dems Republicans paradigm is just a mechanism of divide and conquer. No president has been free of controlling those powers. Yes, you might as well just take the letters away. You have 100 people that are senators, 100 people that are senators, and maybe one is good. So I guess 1%. Who knows what the people in the House are up to? There was only one person in the House worth keeping to, maybe 2 or 3 actually at one point. When Rand Paul was in there, they said that Rand Paul was the only one. Somebody did a study on who took certain monies from certain people, and they said Rand Paul was the only one that never took a dime from anyone. But then someone came back and said, yeah, well, he voted for this bill, and it went to his constituents in Texas. Like, yeah, he ain't going to vote down a bill that has funding in it just because it has funding in it. But if it had something against the people and their rights, he voted it down. Yep. The 1%, Kenneth, should take the other 99% and round them up and take them to Gitmo. That's right, Timothy. Now they get to say Biden won again and by a larger margin. I couldn't believe when I actually saw that. Now, the report was very detailed. The presentation was over 3 hours long. I started to watch it, tried to watch it. I was 2 hours early today on everything. So when I got home, Charlie thought he was going to his walk 2 hours earlier. And so he just bugged the heck out of me. I just couldn't concentrate on it. So I'll go back and go through it. But I did see the paperwork. And the paperwork does give numbers, and it's in the tens of thousands. And there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't even understand that they have like unknown. So I don't know. And that's not even including any of the forensics on the Dominion machines. It's not even including that at all. Or the routers. Yes, our media is worse than China. Vantage, I'm surprised you're back. I thought you would hate me by now. Just kidding. You know what? It could be public executions. I think you're more spot on than you think. It's got to be the public doing the executions because nobody else is going to. Something interesting. I don't know if he's really on Telegram or not, but we have the real. What happened to it? We have the real John Durham channel, and let me read you this because this is positive news if it's true. What happened to him? Let me search. According to this, there's no results. It would help if I spelled correctly. Oh, we have John Durham, at John Durham Official, at Real John Durham. Now, this is at at Real John Durham. Let's see. I'm just going to read it to you, okay? This was posted today, so he references 7 days from today. He says, if it's really John Durham or not, I don't know. I'm just going to pass it along. The truth must lead our consciousness. Wouldn't you agree with this? Judging by the way you responded to my call, definitely proves that. I don't know what that's reference to, but anyway, the truth is painful, but also useful. It is the only key to open the door to hope. The shift in the powers is so strong, it caused huge storm coming from the east. I say I don't like that because it's not correct English. The shift in the powers is so strong, it caused huge storm coming from the east. Storm and east are all capitalized. Those who betrayed their own kin will face severe consequences. The storm is coming. Please spread the word. In 7 days, the truth will be revealed to the followers of the loyal martyrdom of American independence and patriotism. At Real John Durham, Special Counsel for the United States Department of Justice. There it is. So we have 7 days for him, whoever this is. You think the John Durham mess is a lie as well? Well, John Durham, he did finally indict. Now, think about this. This is from 2015, 2016 era. He finally indicted a person that was involved in the Russiagate lie with Trump. It was a Clinton attorney. So that just happened. So it's proof that John Durham is actually alive and breathing, didn't die of COVID or anything like that. He must have been following CDC guidelines because he's still alive. Oh, I got the deal down with. I mentioned this many streams ago, but my cousin, her name is Bonnie, and her husband, they both came down with COVID. They're older than me, so they're almost as old as dirt. They both recovered fine. He was vaccinated. She was not. No difference. In fact, I think he had worse symptoms than she did. Who can we actually trust? I have no thoughts. I don't know. I don't know. But I know one thing. Again, perception is reality. Let's see if the truth really gets out. And if it doesn't, the two Hopium people that I listened to that said this is what would trigger it. God, I wish I could. Mel Q, I think, was one of them. Is that her name? And who was the other one? Wasn't X-22. Although I don't know what he said about it because I haven't listened to him except for one time in the last many months. But anyway. Paul Holston, trust in Jesus. Amen to that. And Bill, don't forget what Bill says. Trust the CDC. JTSSRX. Oh my God, Q isn't real and the military wasn't supporting Trump. And we know. No, I don't think it was him either. Although these people may have said it, I don't know. And I love these things on Telegram, and it's like, oh, that's some juicy information. And then you read in the next paragraph, those who get the Trump coin are going to be the ones that get blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, goodbye to that channel. Oh, that's a good take, John. Things are looking really good because things are looking really bad. The second coming gets closer and closer. Praise God. Yep. And the new translation says, promises kept. That's good verse. Who to trust? Let God be true and every man a liar, as it is written. The new translations are more up to date. They say, let God be true and all the MSM is a liar. And it says, if you want anyone close to Clinton, he would have been protected. Yeah, this is some attorney or something that I don't even know if it was Perkins. Well, yeah, I think it was Perkins Coie. I'm not sure, though. I can't say for sure. Anyway, I got a comment. Switching gears just for a moment, and we can go into anything you want. So let me read the comment to you. Hopefully I screen saved it. There we go. This is from Morzullo Mizzelli. My guess would be Italian. Minute 525 of this silly video, one of my videos. Water flows downhill because it is pushed by air pressure above. He misquoted because it's not even correct English. I'll try to correct it. Water flows downhill because it is pushed by air pressure above it, pushes it downwards. We all know that air pressure decreases with altitude. This means that the force exerted by air on water from below is stronger than the force exerted from above. If it was all pressure and density, water would rise to the sky instead of falling to the ground. This video is all BS. My reply, I am a meteorologist. I'm not a doctor, so follow CDC guidelines. I am a meteorologist, and water reaches extremely high into the atmosphere, whether you see it as a cloud or not. In fact, billions of tons of water. It is all about relative density. You are the one showing silliness. Cheers. And then I say, I will demonstrate proof of this in tonight's stream. So here's a little lesson that you might come up with in flat earth discussion, might not. Let me load up this one little graphic I have. Very simple. We're going to look at different types of barometers. See, because I think the video was so long ago, I don't even remember exactly what we were talking about, but I'm sure the question was, why does water flow downhill? They were trying to see that the force is gravity pulling it down. Well, I don't disagree that there's a downward force, but I think it's magnetic. But in reality, water will flow, and this is important, into its level, and air pressure has a lot to do with it. See, because we humans are equalized with the air pressure around us, we don't feel air pressure. And I don't know what he means by air underneath. What air underneath water? If there was air underneath water and the water condensed enough to where it was more dense, it would fall through that air. Water in its form on the earth will flow downwards, and it's assisted greatly by air pressure. I swear it just does not like paint. All right, let's take a look at a couple examples because this is very important, as you will see at the very end. Here's different kind of barometers you can actually make. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Let me make it larger. There we go. All right. There we go. And let me get the little magnifier here. This is one form of barometer. It's using mercury. You can actually do this with water. I used to have one that had water in it. The problem is you need two of them when you have water, because with water, temperature also affects it, but air pressure is the main thing. What happens is you fill up a tube, or you put a vacuum in a tube, fill it with liquid, okay, and then let it all run out. Except it won't all run out. It'll stop at about 30 inches. It's showing 29.92 inches. This is standard atmospheric pressure. So the air pressure, as they are showing, I didn't make up this graphic, the air pressure pushes down on the mercury, or in the case we're going to be talking about water, and that pressure is enough to push the water or mercury up the tube. That's how strong it is. It's pushing it actually uphill. That's how strong air pressure is. And when you have changes in your barometric pressure, this will go up and down, whether it is water or mercury, assuming solid temperatures. Temperature doesn't change, because there's a little, what you do is if you have like what I had, you put them side by side, and you have one gradiated with temperature, one gradiated with pressure. And you make an adjustment off the temperature. So even though it may have gone up the glass, you say, oh, it's higher pressure, you look over the temperature is 2 degrees higher. So that's the reason, or 2 degrees lower, whatever. Now, many people have done this as a kid. This isn't water. This is just like a balloon stretched over the top of a mason jar, 33rd degree mason jar. Air pressure inside the jar is higher than outside. And it'll cause, you take some Elmer's glue and you glue a straw in there. And you make your little graduation points behind it on a wall. And it will rise up and down as the air pressure changes. Because once you seal this off, the air pressure inside stays the same. So if the air pressure on the outside lowers, the pressure inside here, it tries to expand to equalize. This is why the vacuum of space and human beings being there is impossible. Because there's no material to go to a complete vacuum that would stand it. Sorry. Coke can barometer. You can even do this with a Coke can. How's that? And see, they're showing you now with modern day, you use your barometer app. And when it says 30 inches of mercury, you mark it on the wall. You're going to have some temperature. As long as you keep the temperature the same, this will be reliable. Now, how does this have to do with water flowing downhill? It's actually every inch, there's 14.5 roughly pounds per square inch, as we all know, of air pressure pushing down. That same air pressure pushes down on water. And it will keep it pushing down as long as that water is not level. It still pushes down when it's level, but when it's level, water has reached where it wants to be. It's not in disequilibrium. So when they say that the middle of the ocean is heaped up more than the edges, that means the middle of the ocean is defying air pressure. This is why you can't have curved water over a large area. It will constantly flow into its level, and it's because of the air pressure above it. Air pressure doesn't go away just because it's humped up. Such bullcrap, man. Such bullcrap. But people can't get it. Hello, Emma Dreambar. Sorry I didn't say hello to everybody tonight. Ron Skelton, sea level is the same regardless of the temperature. That's not true, Ron. But nobody on the other side will tell me where sea level is taken from. Actually, you are true. You are correct. Just messing with you. But in their model, no two places on Earth. Well, maybe, I guess you could have two places on Earth with the same sea level. But it would always have to be the same distance from the center of that ocean out. So if you went to the center of the Atlantic and went out 10 miles one way, center of the Pacific, go out 10 miles one way, technically, I guess your sea level would be the same. But that's not true either because the different oceans have different widths. So good luck working that one out. You got an Amber Alert. Thought it was EBN. Yep, Ron, sea level is where the water meets the land. And if you ever, there's some good documentaries on how they did the Panama Canal. The reason why they had to have a lock system where the boats go in and they fill it up so it goes up higher, and as they go, then they back down or whatever, is because the land in the middle was higher. So they have to force water in to get the boat to get to different levels. But the Atlantic and the Pacific, the exact same level. All they did was come up with a series of lock systems for the transit in between that was over land. I'm too nice to explain it to lazy people that don't like research. Six-pack American, Trump lost. Haha. The way I see it, Trump lost no matter what. Because that's the word that everybody's going to believe. Stick says, I watched a few 107 videos. I want what he's smoking. I don't even smoke. You got that right. I used to like 107 at first. He was the only one that said Joe Biden was going to be sworn in. He was the only one that said that in advance. However, his deadline for that to end and all that stuff, that's way past. You know, all these people that have these people are into insanity. You have him and his sources. You have, who's that guy that's ex-Marine, whatever he is, jiu-jitsu expert. You got him, and you got Simon Parks and a few others. Their sources are saying that this is going to happen within the next 2 weeks. Wednesday's a big day. Next Friday's a big day. Blah, 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 blah. They're talking to insane people, or they're insane themselves, or both. Because they keep expecting these people to be right, and they never are. Oh, you're right. There's one ocean. Stanley, 100% level. Yep, Panama Canal. Yeah, you got it, Maria. Michael Jaco. And his remote viewing. Yeah, I've already remote viewed July, and it's not good. Really? What happened in July that wasn't good? I don't know. 2 more weeks for what? Any more? Iron FE says, mean sea level. Local tides are average. Those are collected, and the statistical mean is taken from there. So the middle measurement of all the average tides is the mean sea level Earth-wide. Can't be. I know that's their explanation, but it can't be. Because the ocean level, first of all, when you're out at sea, there is no tides. There are no tides out at sea. There are no tides out at sea. Tides has to do with how water level is with land. So I understand mean sea level and all that stuff. But what do you do in Kansas? Is that the sea level from the nearest, well, let's say the nearest would be off the Virginia Capes. I don't know, Virginia. So you go out to Kansas, it's 1,500 miles. You have to do the earth curvature thing. How can they be at sea level there when they're really supposed to be miles and miles above it? And the middle of the Pacific is hundreds of miles above the water that's hitting the Hawaiian Islands or hitting San Francisco. So it would make sense to measure the sea level at places where there are no tides and use that. Well, that would mean fresh water, or like you can't do that because like take the Salton Sea, for example. That whole place is below sea level. The top of the water is below sea level. It's a big crater that filled in with salty water. New Orleans is allegedly below sea level, and so is Miami. But the rise in global sea levels is causing floods there now in both of these places. Didn't you know that? Yeah, I know. Yeah, Ron. I know. I understand it, but it's bunk. The only time you can use mean sea level is for a particular place. I grew up in Baltimore. We used to go crabbing. We used to go to a place called Crab Alley Bay. What was the exact? Well, it doesn't matter. There was a place called Point Lookout. At Point Lookout, they would measure the tides, high tide, low tide, and then the mean in between would be the mean tide level right there. So that's halfway between the peak and the trough. But that's only good for Point Lookout. That's only good for Point Lookout. You could be 5 miles down the road and they have a normal higher high tide and a normal lower low tide, or vice versa, or one or the other. And if you're on a globe model, if you're 10 miles away, that sea level is 66 feet below where you were. You have to measure from the sea or use a barometer. Barometers are used with aircraft on aircraft carriers. And it's very important. They set their altimeter to it. It's so when they come back, if there's low visibility, they can still land using the barometer. And we can give them an update to our barometric pressure so that they don't miss. However, what's not calculated in is how far has the carrier moved since they took off. It could be 300 miles from where they took off when they're coming back to land. We don't calculate that in. We don't say, oh, well, the barometer is now, it's exactly the same as it was when you took off, but we've moved 300 miles. So we are 800 feet, whatever it is. We're 200 feet below where we were. Well, and it's foggy. Well, okay, they're going to set it, all right, 200 feet below, blah, blah, blah. They're going to crash into the sea long before they get to the carrier. Sea level is a ballpark measure, sort of. To me, it's good for local. That's it. Salt and seas, the remnants of an ocean that receded. I've heard a different. You could be right, Corey, but I've heard a different description of it. Had to do with one of the because that's near the San Andreas Fault. And one of the big earthquakes out there shifted something, and the water drained out from some area and went down into the Salton Sea. And I think it was an artificial, like maybe I don't know. Who knows? Everything's a lie. There you go, Iron. Trick is water is level, tides are local. And out at sea, there are no tides. Problematic. I won't read your second word. Trump lost. Get over it. Stop crying already. The problem is he didn't lose. The problem is gotta watch what I say. People are in office that shouldn't be in office because of what happened with the machines and other shenanigans. And if you actually get off mainstream media and read the actual damn report, you'll find that out. Now it's time to wake up to reality and stop listening to mainstream media. You got it. It was, I can't say that Vintage, but you did. Vintage says it was stolen from him. Both parties are the beast. All parties are the beast. Any government in control of a country is part of the beast system. I don't know about local and all that. You might have decent people. ZGMO says, hey, Rich, my Aunt Tammy found out she is terminal with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She used all the prayers she can get. Well, yes. Prayers to you, ZGM. Prayers for her. Who was it on here? I didn't say this. Somebody on here was going against the CDC guidelines, and they said ivermectin cured their cancer. But you have to have somebody be willing to do that instead of the, Who was Ron Watkins problematic? I don't even know who that is. Yes, please. There's somebody on here who's a good prayer warrior, because when I ask for prayers, stuff happens fast. Sooner Squatch. 100% all beast system. I've covered this for years. How are you, brother? I am doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. How are you? That's right. It's all the beast system. It's all Babylon the Great. When all those little people with Babylon all split up, when they were confused by somebody, they all went in and formed their own little nations, and it all came from Babylon. There's no getting around it. You're right, Vintage. They didn't go by CDC guidelines in India. In fact, my understanding is India kicked out the pharmaceutical companies. I don't even know why we do business with India, because that's against CDC guidelines. And they passed out ivermectin to their population, their entire population. And they have virtually no problems. Whereas on the other hand, you have countries like Israel, you have states like Massachusetts. Mainstream media reported this. What's wrong with this picture? Mainstream media reported this. 74% of COVID cases in Massachusetts are vaccinated people. Well, I just was told by the CDC, you have to trust it, that 94% that the inoculation, it's 94%. Why is it in 100? But anyway, it's 94% effective at preventing COVID. Now, I'm a meteorologist, not a mathematician, but statistically, if it's 94% effective, but 74% of the population that have it are the cases, which means 26% of the population don't have the cases, or 26% of the population aren't vaccinated, then it sounds to me like 74% of the non-vaccinated are protected, and only 26% of the vaccinated are. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a statistician, but Summer Stardust. People need to read your comment. I'm not going to put it up there because that's against CDC. Stanley says, slightly off topic. Too bad, Stanley. I'm not going to talk about it then. But interesting. There's an underwater ocean within an ocean. Don't remember where exactly, but a deep sea vehicle bounced it off a super sailing underwater lake. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I've seen the video of that, and I can't remember where it's from either. You know, I think Eric Dubay has it in one of his videos. It's almost like they bounced off a glass, like sort of like what we think of the firmament, but underneath the water too. Interesting. It's definitely there. It's been reported. And there's definitely a barrier between it. They say there is. That's right, Sooner. And I wouldn't even report that except for mainstream media. That was NBC reported that one, I believe. Yeah, there's somebody on here, I'll tell you what, who prays, or people, just a combination. I've had several things, and very rapidly I get over it. You don't need to hear from the Globama Society. Ooh, Camgo. I'm not going to. I saw that. I'm not going to repeat that. Persian Scribe says he's not a doctor, but apricot seeds. Oh, I can't even mention that. Heresy. Oh, I haven't heard this one sooner. Get a jab and get free turkey. Free vaccine to an NFL football game. Just government always taking care of us like they do. Yeah. Insulin. Oh, you got it. The government is telling your employer that if you have more than 80 people to fire your butt. The government is telling your employer to fire you. Or they're going to cut funding. A lot of companies who can ignore it, and all these states can say, we're not going to go by this. That's fine. But when they say you're not going to get government contracts, that's part of it. Government contracts. A lot of people do. I had my own 2 little computer stores back in the 1980s. We had government contracts. Loved them. Loved them. You're not going to get government contracts. You got over 8 employees and don't nix the anti-vaxxers. Or if you're connected to Medicare, this is why medical, if this doesn't stop, you will not be able to get medical help unless you've been inoculated, vaxxed. That's as easy to predict as the mainstream media lying about the results. Oh, by the way, those mainstream media things I read to you, remember that? They were all out before the 1 o'clock press conference. Talk about getting ahead of the news cycle. Persian says, fully faxed NFL teams keep testing positive for COOF, but I guess that's just a coincidence. It's just, somebody didn't follow what it was. They probably didn't have double masks on after they were vaccinated, because that's when you the vaccination and mask, it's all a combination. Or they were around some idiot who didn't have a mask, wasn't vaccinated, no symptoms, but they gave it to the people that were vaccinated and masked. That's what happened. Yeah, we need to protect the VED from the unVED. Makes sense, yeah. It's like, I had the measles shot. It's one of the childhood diseases I never had. So I got the measles shot when I was, 8 years old, 12 years old. Whenever you get it, I got the measles shot. I never worried about being around people with measles again. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Same with chicken pox. I had chicken pox. So I was never worried about being around people with chicken pox, ever. So both cases, I didn't worry about it because I was protected. Why aren't these people protected? They should be protected. The CDC says they're 93% protected. And just like today's news, everybody believes whatever they hear, because they take it even farther. They take it even farther. This guy driving in a 65 mile per hour highway, US 60 here in Arizona. He's driving 45 tops. He should have his thing on. He should have his hazard lights on. People don't understand how to drive either. But anyway, if you're 15 miles per hour or more below the speed limit, you are required by law, most states, to have your hazards on to let people know so they don't come up and slam you in the rear. Everybody knew this because he was holding up a whole mess of people. He wasn't in the right lane like he should have been. And sure enough, I look over and there he's got a mask in a car by himself. Oh, and he's got a sticker on the side of his car. Safety first. Those who seek to save their lives will lose it. He's lost his life. Just like the guy with the soaking wet, dripping towels as he's holding dumbbells at the gym. He's lost his life and doesn't even know it. Scared to death. Oh, you know what's weird about the guy with the hands, with the spray all over, whatever? No mask. It's the first time I saw that. The other guy I used to see come in and do the same thing, he had a mask too. At least he was consistent all the way. John and Bill Gates should be the first one thrown into. Wow, they're doing good works. You know, it's what I'm sure. Jason, welcome, Jason. Go back, watch the first 5 minutes, and come back. Just go back and watch the first 5 minutes. That's the main part. I went right into it today, so I didn't even read people's names here. But who's dying, the wheat or the tares? I believe the vaccine is a tool for the biblical harvest. Looked up the occupational sermon of Fauci, sickle maker. Thanks for that, Wesley. I like the guys in mask on a bike, yes, but no helmet. I guess there's nothing to lose up there. And here's another thing that gets me, going back to cars again, and the government. Who the hell has the right to tell me that I have to put a seatbelt on in a car? It's my life. I'm not endangering anybody else's life if I don't have a seatbelt on. I'm probably not even endangering mine. People that are thrown clear sometimes are saved because they didn't have a seatbelt on. I don't know what kind of accident I'm going to have in advance. And I remember how that started too. Oh, well, there's no fine. We just want you to wear it. And we'll only pull you over if there's something else first. Like if you were speeding or you didn't turn your signal on, whatever. And we've noticed then you don't have a seatbelt on. We'll tell you to put it on. We'll give you a warning. Well, then the warning became a fine. And then it wasn't, we'll pull you over for something else. No, we'll pull you over if we don't see you have a seatbelt on. And the fine keeps going higher and higher and higher. You don't have the right government. We give it to them. Why can't people think? They have no right to tell you how to live your life when you're not harming anybody else's. Thank you, Sticks. 141 watching. There's actually 186 watching combined. Only 54 thumbs up. And how about these people? How many people love that? I have a lot of pet peeves with drivers. You pull up to an intersection. You're in a left turn lane, left only turn lane. You get a green arrow for the turn lane, and then you got two greens beside it. All right. People in front going. You're finally getting up, and it's always the person right in front of you. The green arrow goes away. All right. The two other greens are still there. There's no red arrow. There's no red. It's just the two greens. You have the right to turn left after you yield to oncomers. No, the person in front of you almost always doesn't get that. They just sit there until they get the next green arrow. Or how do you like this? It's always the person in front of you too, especially where I am. You're in the right lane. It's not a turn lane, but it's the right lane. You can turn right onto the next road. And people are going right on red. Then the person in front of you doesn't know. They have the right signal on, but they don't turn right because they don't understand they can go right on red. I could go on and on about people when they're driving. ZG says, yes, Rich, I was ejected out of the window of my truck on the interstate and landed on my feet in the median. They said if a seatbelt was on, I'd have died. Yeah, there's many stories like that. Thanks for sharing that, ZG. Glad you're okay. Camgo says it's like something happened today, but media blocked Great Awakening again. And they're going to keep blocking it. And until somebody goes in and takes care of the media, I don't care who, the military or the American people, somebody. But the American people are, the majority will always believe them. That's the problem. That is the problem. Yeah, Wesley, they've had enough money and they figured out immortality, so they want us to die. I don't know if they figured out immortality, but I do believe we can live way longer than we do now. Iron, if you knew signs needed, no rules needed, no lights needed, just driving as survival of the fastest and strongest. Oh. Who's going to do it then? The local people do it. And many places do, busy places. They don't have stop signs. They don't have lights. Everybody comes up to the intersection and they look. And then they go. And you know how it is, especially if you're on a prairie, it's wide open, you can see every direction. You come up to the cross and there's no cars or anybody coming for 10 miles. Well, actually, 3.1 miles, because that's only as far as we can see on a globe. So nobody's coming for 3.1 miles, but you still got to stop. Shelley, God limited our life to 120 years. Could be. There's two ways to interpret that. When you actually look at it, it's talking about 120 jubilees, which is 6,000 years. But I also look at it as 120 years. I look at it as a double meaning. They don't need us anymore. They got robots. Is it live fed to us our whole life? Vintage says about the world being overpopulated too. Yes, you know, when I was watching, I just saw something on World War II in China. They had World War II now, or just prior to World War II. So late 1930s, the population was 500 million, I want to say, or less than 500 million. So how did it go from less than 500 million to how many billion are supposed to be there since 1938? That's almost mathematically impossible, I would think. There's a lot of little stuff I pick up on these old documentaries. Like the Germans shooting in France, taking the Earth calculation into the calculation to hit their target. They miss miserably. Okay, forget the Earth calculation part, the Earth curve. Oh, now we're hitting it. 7.8 billion now in the world. And my understanding is even if there is 7.8 billion, they would all fit in Texas and still, what was it, an acre and a half each? I don't know what it is, but Iron says everyone on Earth can fit into a 3-mile cube. The cubby for all. And I see this thing they're trying to push now about we're running out of water. Oh, you know what? I want to look at this. How many have heard of Science Moms? .com. You get these dumb, stupid people on these YouTube videos, commercials. Screw you and your. No, I'm not taking your freaking. Oh, let's go through this together. This might be fun. I've never been here before. The first one I saw was this. It was a. She was a climate expert. And it was, she was like, I had to wake my children up at 5 a.m. to play because it was so hot out. They shouldn't have to go through this. I'm like, screw you. Move out of the desert, lady. Or wherever she lives. I tell you what, do you wake them up at 5 in the morning in February in the Northeast because it's too hot out? Or do you wait till it's 4 in the afternoon so they don't freeze their butt off? Where is this? According to this, it doesn't exist. Let's try it again. There it is. Let me get rid of this. Get rid of this. Sorry. So for some reason, my StreamYard is not picking up Science Moms. Maybe it knows it's probably best. Here it is. It tried to hide it from me. Alrighty. Let's see what we got here. We're a nonpartisan. Really? Let's see if that's true. Group of climate scientists who are also mothers. No fathers? Anyway, working to demystify climate change. You know why it's a mystery? Because there's no science behind it. Mystery equals no science. Talk honestly about its effects on our families and give moms the info they need to help preserve the world for their kids. This is the stupid idiot. Dr. Joan Russell, professor of biochemical dynamics and oceanographer. No, is that her? Professor of Ocean Atmosphere Dynamics. Climate Ambassador. Professor of Political Science. I wonder what side she's on. Dr. Melissa Burt, Atmospheric Research Scientist, Arctic Specialist. Bet she's never been there. Associate Professor of Atmospheric Science, Wildfire Specialist, Dr. Emily Fisher. Yuck. Dr. Ruth DeFries. Fry maker at McDonald's. Professor of Ecology and Sustainability, author. Professor of okay. Professor means nothing. It means they're probably stupid. Oh, the facts. Let's get the facts. Just the facts. There are a lot of misconceptions about climate change. Yes, and it comes from these people, which makes sense because it's a complex issue. No, it's not. We study the science day in and day out. No, you don't. Show some. Now we're breaking down some myths to protect our children's future. Myth. Virtually all climate scientists agree it is. Over 99% of climate, myth. Climate change isn't settled science. Virtually all climate scientists agree it is. Over 99% of climate scientists, those who get funding, agree on the basic fact about climate change. The 1% who disagree, they don't get government funds or grants. Their job isn't tied to agreeing with the rest. It's real. It's human caused. It's happening, people, now, but it's solvable. Actually, the main uncertainty is us. How much sea levels rise? Well, you have to tell us where sea level is first. Give us a point. Give us a number. How bad hurricanes get? Hurricanes get better or worse depending on the sea surface temperature that they ride over. If they ride in the Gulf of Mexico where sea surface temperatures are higher always, they're going to get bigger, especially if they sit there and sit there and sit there. And there's another factor, wind shear. If there's no wind shear, they grow. If there's wind shear, they don't. I don't care how warm the sea surface temperature is. Or how many people are forced to flee their homes. Based on what? Will depend on how quickly humans stop pumping pollution into the air. Oh, God. One thing is absolutely certain. The longer we wait to act, the worse it will be. Prove it. They give you these here we go. Myth. Climate change is a natural phenomenon. No, it's all man. And only money can fix it. Right now, it is already comparable to 10.5-foot thick blanket of carbon pollution surrounding the Earth, dangerously warming the planet. Oh, please. Climate change is way off in the distant future. Fact, it's happening right now. Yeah, by your data. And guess what happened? You got caught fudging the data. You got caught fudging the data. It all came out of Europe. They fudged it all. It might get bad, but America can handle it. Oh, gotta send a message to the people they can pay. The heat trap out of thickening pollution blanket will make virtually every natural disaster more deadly and destructive. We should have been long. We were given until 2017 at around when did stupid Al Gore start this bull crap? We had 10 years to fix it in 2008, 7, something like that. That's more than that many years later, and we're still fine. Oh, what can we do about it? It's not too late to prevent the worst case scenarios. Not as long as the money flows, it's never too late. But to do so, we must stop polluting. And that means moving from fossil fuels to clean, renewable energy sources of the 21st century. That means get rid of anything like your car, like your fossil fuel heater, like your toaster, because, see, these people are so stupid. Because even most electricity is either generated by nuclear power, which I know they hate, or fossil fuels. Those are the only two things. Solar is a fraction of 1%, if that. Sources. Oh, let's see what the sources are. To learn more, watch Global Weirding by one of our own science moms. Source NASA. Oh, you can't make it up. Scientific American on the dole. NASA, big time on the dole. Script CO2 program on the dole. Carbon Visuals, I don't know what that is. Climate Dynamics, don't know what that is. Nature Climate Change. International Food Policy Research Institute, definitely on the dole. That means getting money free from the government. National Bureau of Economic Research. These are the people that want you to send, and they're going to get people to do it, your tax money, and then people will donate on top of it, like they do to NASA, to Paris for the Paris Climate Accord. And they're going to collect all these billions of dollars. What are they going to do with it? You think they're going to buy you a brand new solar-powered house? They're going to buy you a brand new electric car? I don't think so. Useless eaters. That's right. Country boy, how you doing? Don't forget about the ground electricity charge. You can get electrical current from a ground battery. Yes, from a lot of stuff. NASA, I'm a believer now. Well, these are the people that say, we looked it up. We looked it up. It's the dumbest thing you ever heard. What causes oceans to rise? No. Causes ocean levels to rise. Global warming is causing global mean sea level, which we don't know we don't even have a freaking definition for what that is. We don't know where it's taken from. We don't know anything about it. It's causing global mean sea level. Give me that number where you take it from. Is my house 1,400 feet above global mean sea level, or is it 1,400 feet above sea level in New Mexico, or the Gulf of Mexico, or the Pacific Ocean, or the middle of the Atlantic, or the Mediterranean Sea, or the Indian Ocean? Based on what? Because you have a ball. My sea level is way above the sea level in Australia. First, glaciers and ice sheets worldwide are melting and adding water to the ocean. Bull crap. Bull crap. If they're, again, people, if you need somebody, say, okay, the temperatures are rising, so, okay, ice sheets worldwide are melting and adding to the water ocean. Adding to the water ocean. First of all, selenium, if they're adding, when you go to sea, when you're in the Navy like I was, man, you better have a hell of a lot of ice if you expect ocean waters to rise because ice melting into it. That's like taking an ice cube out of your refrigerator and throwing it into an Olympic-sized pool and say, "Watch what happens. It's gonna raise the level of the pool." Ice melting. Anyway, they're going to say, "No, it's enough. It's melting." That means that the water temperatures are warming. As water temperatures warm, the water contracts. Water is most dense at 34 degrees Fahrenheit, about 1.5 degrees Celsius. So it's more than offset just that alone. And besides, you would have less precipitation, less water going into the oceans because the air would hold more if it's warmer. Warmer air holds more moisture before colder air causes a cooling process causes the water that you can't see to condense in the air, become clouds, and eventually rain down, just like the professor says. He knows that part. He gets all the stuff wrong with it, but he knows that part. Second, the volume of the ocean is expanding as the water warms. 100% bunk. I got to show you this just to show you I'm not making it up. Because then we're going to look up something totally different that's not even connected to global warming that'll prove this is a lie right in front of your face. See this right here? First, glaciers and ice sheets worldwide are melting. Prove it. And like I said, if they are, the water is getting warmer, so it's going to contract. And adding water to the ocean. And evaporation would take a lot more than those melting. Anyway, second, the volume of the ocean is expanding as the water warms. Expanding as the water warms. What temperature is water most dense? That's when it expands the most. This is actually wrong. It's actually closer to 34. But anyway, we'll use this. 39 degrees Fahrenheit. So the water's getting warmer. Since water at about 39 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius is more dense than water at 32 degrees in lakes and other water bodies, the denser water sinks below less dense water. The water, so density causes, not gravity, Diminished density causes the water that's more dense to sink below less dense. That's a great admission right there. If water was most dense at the freezing point, then in the winter, the very cold water at the surface of lakes would sink. The lake would freeze up from the. We all know this. Put an ice cube into a glass of iced tea. Does it sink? No. Not unless the iced tea is at its most dense already. And if you fill a whole bunch of ice in the water, iced tea or water, whatever, fill it to the brim with ice. Let it melt. It won't run over. It's becoming less dense as it melts. So the water temperatures worldwide are getting farther away from its most dense point. And I talked about this on another stream. All you have to do is demonstrate to somebody. Take 2 bottles of Coke. It's mostly water. It's water, sugar, and a little bit of flavor. The water is what we're interested in. Take the water. Take the bottle of Coke. Arizona's beautiful for this. Just put it on top of your car in the middle of the day. Go out there and take one of your little laser thermometers and hit it. It'll probably be near boiling. In fact, you better get it off because it might boil. 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Did the bottle bust? No. Why? Because the water was getting further away from its most dense point. Take another Coke bottle, put it in the freezer. Come back an hour later and open it up, and what do you have? You have Coke leaking out the glass where it busted. Because before it froze, it was at its most dense point, and it busted the bottle. It expanded. So this bull crap that they're trying to say now that warmer air expands water? No. Warmer air expands air. Warmer temperature expands air, not water. Water works differently. They're lying to you right in front of your face. And you can just do that little lookup right there for the people like my son who are the skeptics. No, they know what they're talking about, Dad. They've been doing this, and that's the science. And then when you show something like that, it's like, well, here's the science. Don't connect it to global warming where there's a bias. Oh, yeah, it is colder. It gets more dense. Thank you, Caleb. I appreciate you. Thank you. Jason, I got to watch some of the videos about what you're talking about, but I don't know anything about it, but it just sounds to me like if I mention it, it's not going to be good. Sooner, that's right. If we all pee in the ocean at once, then Florida and Louisiana will be flooded forever. I'm going to get rid of Florida and Louisiana. We know what to do. That's right. I don't science, bro. Shows you that they don't do science. They're interested in the feed. That's all they're interested in. Pugsley, hello. Thank you, Pugsley. When the feed dries up, it goes away. When the feed dries up, like people are starting to have to pay, at least partially, for their COVID test. Who was this? Somebody here said they knew somebody had to pay $300 some. That test is over $1,000. And guess who got a copyright on it back in 2015 on the test? Think of somebody who's gone to Africa a lot with vaccines. Allegedly. Copyright COVID-19 test 2015. Look it up. But it's over $1,000 when it's not subsidized. Just think, how many people do you know are going to go and say, I don't feel good. I'm going to go see if I have COVID. And you get there and like, okay, that'll be $1,452. Thanks, but no thanks. You got it, Emerald. Guess who's got the patent? Bill says, my 10-year uni-educated son believes the system. I wonder why. I got a 24-year-old I just keep working on. Same thing here, Bill. He went to Arizona State University and he's got a master's degree. The higher the degree, degrees, 33rd degree, the higher the degree, the more the indoctrination. The boy and his dog. I like that. I've been hearing we're going to run out of water and not to run my sprinkles since I was 5. Tell that to Niagara Falls. This stuff is flowing. Now, water is renewable. Fresh water is renewable. Yeah, we could actually muck it up and make it so we don't get enough fresh water in time, but it's renewable. I don't care what it is. It's renewable because it evaporates and comes back. In places that, I don't know how they get all this money, but places like Israel, they have machines over there in the desert. There's not a lot of humidity in the desert. Trust me, we have days where it's 2% humidity here. A lot of days where it's under 5%. They have machines in Israel that pull the water out of the air and put it in bottles and people get it. I don't know how much it costs, but water is renewable. Anna says she'll take the $1,000, put it in silver, and take my chances with Mr. Mecton. I like that, Mr. Mecton, yeah. That's right. You got it. A boy and his dog. It's unlimited. So is oil. Big money grabbing hopes. Yes, gas should be almost free. Not free because you have people that have to work. Once they get the drilling and all that done, I mean, would you pay them forever for that? But there is refining and stuff like that and delivery charges and stuff, but it should literally be pennies. Was it Sticks that I saw something? Oh no, Stanley. Your son and my wife's and my mom's sister sounds very, very similar. There's a lot of people that fall in that category, don't they, Stanley? And the older generation that are like that, like my ex-mother-in-law, she's in her, I guess, late 70s, early 80s now. 666. There's a 0% chance. 0% chance that she will ever see anything other than what MSNBC tells her. 0. She's gone. You get to the stage just like people do when they're sick, where it's like, sorry, you're terminal. Nothing we can do. Some people get to that way. Country Boy says, wait, I'm confused, Rich. I thought salt water, muddy water, and fresh water don't mix. How can melted fresh water mixed with salty ocean water cause sea level rise? How can melted fresh water mixed with salty ocean water cause sea level rise? Oh, I see what you're saying. No, they do mix. They will. A lot of fresh water flows into the oceans. Almost all rivers are freshwater and they flow into the ocean. Then you have the in-between, like the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. That's called brackish water. It's a mixture. It's not as salty as the sea, but it's not fresh water either. But you can find places along the Chesapeake Bay that are almost pure fresh, and you can catch freshwater fish there. And there are places that you can catch like only things that are available in deep sea water, not deep sea, but high salinity levels. You can find that in the Chesapeake Bay, especially near the mouth of the bay. And then you have the in-between, and fish. There's some fish that only thrive in that in-between area. It's really cool. But it all, like most of the rain we get, it's all fresh, but most of it comes from evaporation from the oceans, and it's carried by the winds, especially the jet stream all over the place. Eventually, you get a cooling process. It becomes clouds. Usually, the cooling process is a lifting mechanism. Something causes it to lift, and then it cools, condenses, and it comes back as fresh water. So you should have, if it's really making a noticeable change in sea level, you should have a noticeable change in the salinity. It should be dropping. There's just there's no way around it. The global seawater is rising by 2 inches. Do you know how much freshwater injection that is? Go out to sea and spend 56 days at sea and not hit land, and you tell me these even if all of Greenland slides off into the Atlantic, maybe an eighth of a millimeter until it evaporates. Yeah, Shelley, Chesapeake Bay is amazing. I used to love the crab on the Chesapeake Bay, but we used to have a saying after a while that the only way crabs are going to get past the Bay Bridge, because so many crabbers and people crab for them, as the Bay Bridge is down near, closer to the ocean. I live farther north. The only way crabs were going to get across is if they paid the toll and went across the bridge. Yeah, they used to have the best seafood. It's been over harvested. I wish they would. What they used to do is government stupidity. What they used to do is say, "Oh, you have to get a crabbing license." That's fine, I guess, if you want to bring it back. But what they should have said is, "Look, nobody crabs for 2 years. That's all it would take. 2 years. Nobody harvests anything out of the bay for 2 years. It would be when people went back, it would be overwhelming, the amount of seafood that would be there. But no, you're limited to 2 bushel, and it got to be this size, and it can't be this, and it can't be a soft shell unless it's this." And the government putting their little spin on it. Country Boy says, "You have me a new perspective, Rich. Only sea we can drink from is the Dead Sea." We can't drink from the Dead Sea. That will kill you. It takes, but doesn't put back out. It's just what the experts say. Well, you can drink from anything as long as you evaporate it first. There are, what is it? Is it in California? They have desalination plants. I think it's California, where they have these plants that are in the ocean. They evaporate it, condense it back, and they drink it. What do you think you drink when you're out at sea in the Navy on an aircraft carrier? I was lucky. I was on the USS John F. Kennedy. We had an extra boiler that was supposed to be for the nuclear power, but they rushed it because of Vietnam, Gulf of Tonkin incident. That was true. Anyway, they rushed it and didn't put nuclear power into it. It was supposed to be the first nuclear powered aircraft carrier. It wasn't. So we had an extra boiler that wasn't used for anything. So they would light it and just evaporate the ocean water. So we constantly had a good supply of fresh water. In fact, what was horrible is when we pulled into port, especially Norfolk or whatever, and they hooked up to the shoreline, you go to get a drink of one and be like, it just tasted so bad compared to just pure evaporated. Well, it was distilled water is what it was. We can get all the fresh water we need using desalination plants. Yeah, they're probably not cheap, but what you get out of it is fantastic. You got it, Pugsley. And you're never going to run it dry. You're never going to run it dry. It's all one big cycle, goes right back. It all flows back to the ocean again. Oh, thanks for that, Sticks. Key West, huh? Has a desalination plant for its municipal water supply. It's right, Pussy. There is no water shortage, and no water shortage is coming. Like I said, we could probably go out. They could probably go out and throw. I don't even want to give any ideas. They could throw the jab in all the water supplies, and then nobody would want to drink it. But you can even evaporate that and get rid of it. The cool thing about evaporating water is nothing stays behind in the water. Nothing comes out in the water. You know, when I first got a distiller, when I was making my colloidal silver. By the way, is Jughead, are you here? When I first got a distiller, I distilled my first gallon, and the second, third, and I was reading instructions like after about 8, 9, 10 gallons, you should open it up and clean out the residue. So I did, and it smelled so bad. I literally was sick to my stomach for a few minutes. It was gross. This was coming out of the water supply, public water supply. It was what was left behind, all the crap. That's right, Vintage. God has made, one good thing about me being into earth science is I learned very early on that God has a perfect system. Mankind is not going to screw it up. Yeah, he can try. God says, I will destroy those who destroy the earth. You can do a lot of harm to the earth. But even the things you think are not under control are under control. How about, like I said, all that oil that spilled into the Gulf during the Obama years sometime? Remember, it was hundreds of billions of barrels. In fact, it was millions of barrels every day. Remember, they showed the thing squirting up all the millions of barrels of oil, and they would have helicopters flying over the Gulf. And at first, I guess the tides or whatever were just right, and the oil washed ashore at a lot of the places in the Gulf. And so they had to clean up and stuff they had to do. But you had this humongous pool build up that was like 500 feet deep or whatever. It was just nothing but oil. And they were talking about when this moves on shore, the Gulf Coast, and I believed it, was going to be permanently closed. And then all of a sudden they stopped talking about it. They stopped talking about it. One day I was like, what happened to all that oil? So I looked it up. It seems God created a little microbe that loves to eat oil. And it's in the ocean. And they're usually found in very small quantities. But if oil exists, they replicate like mad. It's like they go to town sexual-wise. They reproduce. They took care of all the oil, 100% of it. And then they all died off because there was no more source for them to live. God has it all it's perfect. Yeah, a boy and his dog. Remember the Exxon Valdez spill? It's permanently gone. This is Walter Cronkite. What a shame. It's never going to be able to be a nice, pristine place again. It's beautiful. It's all gone. God is not going to let anything, like I said, you want to have global warming? Oh, that's going to flood the water. That's going to flood us. No, sorry. God made it so the waters would evaporate more. It's a balance. It's always, there might be a little bit out of kilter, just a little, until it rebalances, like the oil will sit there for a while until the microbes take care of it. But it'll be taken care of. It ain't going to be this big disaster. It never is, never was in history, never will be again. But when they scare you, and we see how easy it is to scare people. Hello, DCM. We see how easy it is to scare people. The money flows. Oh, we can't have that. Meanwhile, the people that are telling you to be scared are buying mansions right on the ocean. They're buying mansions in Massachusetts on the beach and in Hawaii. Why isn't Hawaii disappearing? Why aren't some of these? I've been to a lot of the Bahama Islands and the islands in the Caribbean. A lot of them might have an elevation of 10 feet, if that. Most of it is sea level or just above sea level. They're not disappearing. The same beaches at the hotels. There's a hotel in Barbados that I went to that's right on the beach. They have a bar that literally, at high tide, the water would get very close to the outside bar they have set up. It's still there today. I was there in 1981 or 82. Yeah. 40 years later almost. 40 years later. It's still there, right where it was. I was talking to my son. I was like, man, I'd love to go back there. That was so awesome. Nothing has encroached on anything. Oil is the Sheol. It comes from Sheol. Blood of the earth or heart. All I know is it's renewable. Remember, we've had 2 or 3 warnings about peak oil. The date comes and goes. And trust me, we're using a lot more oil today than when they first were warning us. Way more. That's right. Fukushima was going to kill all life in the Pacific years ago. And I bought that one too. That was before I woke up. I actually did videos on that. 2016, it was going to be moderate, and by 2018, it was going to be severe on the West Coast. You couldn't eat anything out of the Pacific. I stopped eating anything that came out of the Pacific. Like if I went to the store that said Pacific codfish, or whatever, I don't eat codfish, but if it said Pacific whatever and it's a fish I would eat, I wouldn't get it for a while. Until I saw the video with a guy that helped the animals. He was at ground zero, and they showed the Geiger counters on the ground. clicking up against the get the hell out of here in 10 seconds or you're gone. He's a ground zero. He said he couldn't leave the animals, so he stayed behind to take care of them, no matter what happened to him. The animals are doing great. He's doing great. 7 years later, you have a 2-week life expectancy to be, if you're there, what was it? If you're there 2 weeks, you have a 1 week life expectancy, something like that. Very short. He's been there for 7 years. He's doing great. But I did notice he smokes. So when he gets lung cancer, or if he does, they'll say, see, it was that Fukushima radiation that he was exposed to for 26 years. Bill says, remember the 1973 petrol rationing? We're heading back there. No more dinosaurs to make more oil. Liars, yes. Yes, that was such a scam. How many people remember that? I don't know if each state had it, but in Maryland we had odd even. If your license plate was odd and the date was odd, you could get gasoline. Usually only a few gallons, maybe 5, whatever. But usually people would wait in line for an hour to get 5 gallons of gas. Then they go hop in the next line at another gas station and get another 5 gallons of gas. And that's how you would fill up. More gas was wasted waiting in lines than anything else. That's when the government decided we couldn't drive faster than 55. Remember that? There's a song that says, I can't drive 55. Whatever. I'm a meteorologist, not a singer. But how long did that stay? The crisis was over. Finally, what it was is there was an oil embargo, right? Jimmy Carter didn't know what to do, sitting there. Huh? What? What about Georgia? I asked my daughter Amy this morning. I said, Amy, what is our greatest problem? She said, Daddy, our greatest problem is nuclear power. Therefore, I think our greatest problem is nuclear power. He actually said that in a debate against Reagan. Yes, 1973 gas scam. 100% of tankers offshore could not deliver. Yeah. What's real or fake? Actually, it was under Jimmy Carter we had the we had the big one. I don't know what was under Nixon, but we didn't have the. Maybe it was, because what they did was they started asking people to keep the thermometers lower in the winter, so they didn't burn fuel. That all started. Jimmy Carter was wear a sweater, and blankets. Get some blankets. But the malaise, the conditions I see that set up the 1970s are rapidly coming back. Rapidly. It was Nixon. What was Nixon? Oh, oil embargo. No, what was under? There was still something under Carter. Let me see something. I mean, you're probably right, but on July 15th, 1979, President Carter outlined his plans to reduce oil imports and improve energy efficiency in his Crisis of Confidence speech, sometimes known as the Malaise speech. Iranian Revolution seized the American embassy, and Carter imposed an embargo on a Reagan. Oh, that's right. He caused an embargo. It was when the cartel got together, OPEC, that was under Nixon. You guys are correct. Thank you. With the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC raised the price of crude oil by 70%. Gas shortages in the 70s sparked American mayhem and forever changed the nation. Get off. Temporary out of gasoline open for your other driving needs. Showing a sign at the gas station. Oh, what was it? No gas. Oh, you remember at the same time they were trying to bamboozle us into, almost closed the stream. They were trying to bamboozle us into switching over to liters, the metric system. At the same time, the gas prices were, they switched it. A lot of gas stations switched to liters. And then they got you on that conversion too. Because when you did the math, because I did, I was like, wait a minute. They just raised everything by like 5 cents per gallon. But it doesn't look like it because they're selling you 1 liter at a time, not a gallon. Good point. It could be. Past 6,000 years has been a scam. When I was young, gas 24 cents a gallon. Like gas even less. Yes, I remember I had my mother's car, which was huge. And I said, fill it up. And it seems to me like it was about 25 to 27 cents a gallon. In any case, I gave the guy a $20 bill. We were going crabbing. And I got $15 and something in change. And it had to be 20 gallons of gas, at least. Fun fact. Nixon talked to the moon from a landline. He actually had the first iPhone. Just people didn't know about it. The elite have always had stuff first. Endangered polar bear is another lie. They proved that they filmed the deceased polar bear and they used it to say they are starving to death because of climate change, but not true at all. Yeah, don't use anything to grab the buck. Grab the buck. Hello, Jacob Law. Yeah, tricky dick. Man, we had some weird people as president. And it would have been even weirder if his opponents won. Who did he run against? He ran against McGovern. And he ran against... that was the second time. The first time it was the guy from Minnesota. I want to say Herbert, but that's not it. Hubert Humphrey. Oh my God. Hubert Humphrey and George McGovern. Wow. That's about as Stalinist as you could get back in the late 60s. Yeah, next one's the same compared to Obama and Biden. I'm convinced, Vintage, that the whole Watergate thing was a setup. That Nixon didn't play games with the right people with something. And they're like, okay, we're going to get you out of office. Rich Spillman, I resemble that remark. Oh, we've had some $5 for your 74 Pinto. Hopefully it didn't explode, Shelley. Isn't that the one, the 74 Pinto? No, it was the 74. Yeah, it was the Pinto, wasn't it? Rear end explosions. Mandela, your brother says that? Says what? Mondale in the 80s. I do remember Mondale. You know, I have to, yes, Exploding Pinto. Thank you, Shelley. The one thing I'll say about Mondale, I call him the last Democrat who had couth. I don't even know how to describe it. Manners, a sense of dignity. He was the last one. I remember when Reagan beat him. That had to be the 80. Was that the 80? Yeah, that was the 80 election, I think. Had to be 80 or 84. When Reagan beat him, it was 84. They went to he came out to give a speech. And he said, I'd like to congratulate the Reagan team or whatever. And they started booing in the audience. The rank and file of the Democrats had already turned cruddy. And he stopped them. He said, no, we don't do that. They deserve to be congratulated. We don't boo them. But I was like, yes, that's. He was the last one. Nobody since. Thank you, outside of my matrix. Yes, moral fiber. Humphrey. He was left of Stalin, I think. Almost as left his mouth. Hey, you guys know about the Chiang Kai-shek? It was Chiang Kai-shek against Chairman Mao, who became Chairman Mao, Mao Zedong. They were both, it was a weird situation, the World War II era and pre. The Japanese invaded Manchuria. And then there was this internal revolution going on in China. This is when they had 500 million people. And all these people then died in these wars. It's like, how did they get to billions of people now? Anyway, I digress. You had Shanghai Shek, who was working with the West. And he was fighting the communists under Chairman Mao. They were fighting each other while they're both trying to fight the Japanese. Weird situation. But Shanghai Shek was so in the pocket of the West that they called him Cash the Check. He was just interested in the money. High school was $1.25 for a burger, fries, juice, and a milk. Wow. Yeah, I can remember those days. When I worked as a porter in a donut shop, just mopping up and stuff like that, I made minimum wage. It was federally mandated minimum wage. I was making $1.65 an hour, and that was in 1977, I want to say, or 78. One of those 2 years. At some point, I got to put together all the jobs I've had in my life, all the different things I've done, and just read them off. You guys would be like, what? You would not believe the things I've done. And you know what? God knows in advance what's going to help you and what isn't. There are things that I got thrown into, like, what the heck am I doing this for? And later on in life is like, oh, I remember how to do that, or I know that because I was doing this. I was just thinking of something that, thank you, Stanley. Please hit the thumbs up if you haven't done so. Leave a comment. Just say, hey, whatever. That really helps, the algorithms. 1,000 years with the Lord. A day is 1,000 is a day with the Lord. 4,000 years in the Old Testament coming up in 2K mark of Christ's sacrifice. Jesus reigns for 1,000 years. Seventh day of rest. Your thoughts? My thoughts are not your thoughts. No, I'm just kidding. We're definitely somewhere in the book of Revelation because we had the Revelation 12 sign happen on September 23rd, 2017. We're in the 4th year of that now. If the pattern is the pattern, nothing goes past 7 years. Where we are, I don't know. But that goes back to what someone brought up earlier about 120 years is, I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly. I shall not strive always with man, for his years shall be 120. And that can be interpreted as he ain't going to live past 120 years. Although people did for a while, because when he said that, that was right after the flood when people were still living hundreds and hundreds of years. And for hundreds of years they did. It just slowly tapered down. But I think it's more referring to him striving with man before he reconciles with man. And when you actually read the Hebrew, the 120 years is 50. When you read it, break it down, it's 50 jubilees. Oh, I'm sorry, 120 jubilees, which is 50 years. Is the time man is given. And that is 6,000 years. So from the time of Adam to the time of Christ's return should be 6,000 years, according to that. 120, 50 years. Past the 5th seal. The 5th seal is when they open it up and they find out there was election fraud, but it's not reported that way. Just kidding. Just kidding. Sticks. I went to a nightclub called Clubbing Baby Seals. No, I'm just kidding. I had a girlfriend once took me to my first girlfriend. I've had some weird people. I know where she got that from. Her parents were like that. She takes me she had a friend, and her friend's boyfriend was invited. We were all going to go out as a foursome. And she said, I know a place we're all going to go. I was like, okay, we go. We go to this restaurant. We're sitting there, we're eating or whatever, and I get to looking around a little bit, and, just like this or whatever. First scan or whatever, didn't notice anything interesting or out of the ordinary or whatever. Second scan, I'm like, we're the only couples here. There's 3 guys over there. There's 2 girls there. There's 2 guys there. There's 3 guys there. 2 girls over there. Nobody's intermingling except for us. So we go on and on. And finally, people are finally having some drinks or whatever. And people are kissing of the same sex. And I turned to my girlfriend and said, "Are we the only straight people here?" She sort of busted out laughing. "Yeah, we thought it'd be funny to take you to a gay bar, restaurant, whatever." I was like, okay. Anyway, her parents were like that. The one food that will cause vomiting with me is liver, or used to. I can actually tolerate it now. But I told my girlfriend that. And one day, they're having steak for dinner. We all gather around the dinner table. And they hand me my steak. I take a bite of it. And I just instantly was like, ugh, whatever. And everybody starts cracking up laughing. What they did was they cooked the liver, told me it was steak. They just wanted to see how I would react to it. My girlfriend, who also hated liver, she's been eating it. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I've been feeding it to the dog." The dog was beside her. So they were into that kind of thing. And what they did was, she goes, "No, we actually cooked you a steak," and they brought out a nice steak for me. But it's weird stuff that the family did. Yeah, liver it's rough. But I didn't understand. It was like, what's the point? Are you doing this? We just thought it'd be funny. It's like, okay. It's probably the other people wondering why we are there. Could you explain Revelation 12 happening September 2017, please, sir? I am curious. Okay. Sure, John. In Revelation 12, it says, I saw a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon was at her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was pained to be delivered. She was pained to give birth. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I'm pretty close to what it says. I'll actually read it, and then I'll show you what happened. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. I have no clue what version he just gave me, but it makes sense. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon. Well, that's another sign. So anyway, again, a woman. There's only one woman in the heavens that is on the ecliptic, which means that's the only one we all pay attention to. Libra, Sagittarius, Capricorn, etc., etc. And particularly the Hebrews. It was always those 12. Now, there's only one woman amongst that. That's the constellation Virgo. So, when it said a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman, that's got to be Virgo, was clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. Clothed with the sun, but the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. And she was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. That's the Revelation 12 sign. Now, let me show it to you what it looks like. Oh my. You can actually buy Revelation 12 sign posters on Zazzle. And you can get 20% off because it just popped up. I want the picture. I don't want the... Pardon me a moment. Let me get one that's not for sale so you can actually see it. All right. Yeah, that's a better picture. Okay. This isn't the biggest picture, but I'm going to show you. This actually happened in the heavens on September 23rd and 24th, and I'll explain why it's both days. 2017. And people have run it in Stellarium and other programs. It didn't happen 7,000 years past, or it won't happen 7,000 more years in the future. Some people say, yeah, it did. It happened on this date, but when you check it out, it's not the same. So, anyway, because this is it on the right side here. Let me see if I can. No, actually, that makes it smaller. All right. So once in 7,000 years, September 23rd, 2017. What you had was Leo is normally the crown above Virgo, but it only has 9 stars. It doesn't have the 12. But on this particular day, Venus, Mars, and Mercury were in Leo, so it gave it the 12 stars on her head. So you have to have 3 planets there to have the 12 stars. What we call planets, they're just stars to the Hebrews, wandering stars. Here's the sun. She's clothed with the sun. Now, because this was the situation, you saw half of this at sunset and half of it at sunrise. And if you were looking for it, you could definitely see it. Then what you have is on this date, the moon is actually a crescent moon, not what it shows down there, but it's the crescent moon because it was actually the second day of the month. Feast of Tabernacles is the first day of the month. You may hear people like Brenda Weltner say the Feast of Tabernacles is a 2-day feast and it happened on September 22nd and 23rd. No, it's not a 2-day feast. It's a 1-day feast. Sorry, it is. It's a 1-day feast, not a 2-day. Now, it runs into 2 days in our calendar because we do things differently. Our day starts at midnight. God's day starts at sunset. In any case, this was the day after the Feast of Tabernacles, the second day of the new year. And you had, not Tabernacles, the second day of trumpets. And you had this configuration. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is the thing that's unique, Jupiter went into the womb area of Virgo and did a retrograde motion back and forth, back and forth. Now, it does this each year, but it does it in different places in the sky. This happened for 42 weeks, just as human gestation is, Jupiter stayed here as if it was pregnant in the womb. This was the last day it was here. It exited the womb, exited Virgo on September 24th. So this is actually unique in history. And it happened on September 23rd, 2017, and it was foretold 2,000 years ago. So hopefully that makes sense. That to me is a clock starting point, which says you're in it. My opinion, I can't prove any of it, but it definitely fulfills what's in the sky. So, John, hopefully that explained it. You can watch videos on this stuff. And only in modern day would we know in advance that this was coming, because we have things like Stellarium, we have computers and stuff that can compute this out in advance. People knew this was coming before it came. So to me, that's a timepiece. And again, the interesting is, 2 things are interesting about that. In 2020, in that year, 30 days roughly before the Revelation 12 signs, when we had the Great American Eclipse. And you may have heard people talk about that. It went through the country like this. And then there's another one coming in 2024, that goes the other way or crosses. It's going to make an X right in the middle of the country. People say, that's got to be a prophetic sign. It's an X, Xing out the United States. Well, it comes at the end of the 7 years of this Revelation 12, since the Revelation 12 started. So I find that interesting too. And God said he put signs in the sun, moon, and stars for seasons, for different things. Freedom was established in 1717 QQ. Where we go when we go well. Hey, Jacob, what do you think of them finding more votes for Biden? I would say no longer than 2024. John? To me, It's just to me, it's a 7 year, here's your last 7 years. Here's your timepiece to start your clock. To me. Does it say that in the Bible? No. But I'm pulling on other things in the Bible that you have a lot of 7 year things. You had 7 years of famine and 7 years of feast, so to speak, under Joseph. You had the last 7 years of Israel under Daniel. Seven comes up more than any other number in Revelation. I mean, it's literally all over the place, and in places you wouldn't think. Like it mentions things 7 times, but it might be all spread out throughout the book. But it's 7 times. It's amazing. In fact, it was who was it? The guy who used to have he started BlueLetterBible.org. And a university. He said they have a thing every year where they get the students to put together all the 7s they can find in the book of Revelation, see if they come up with any new ones. And every year, the students will come up with a couple more. And here's another thing. Now, it may be in some other, I don't know if it's in Enoch or some other calendars, whatever. But anyone that tells you such and such is going to happen, but it's not going to happen in September because that's not the true holy days, because it's before the fall equinox, or it's before the spring equinox. That's bullcrap. The equinox is not mentioned at all. That's solar worship in the Bible for time. That 13-month calendar reminded me of that. What happens is, when the barley is ripe, is the beginning of months. It doesn't matter if it happens in February, March, April, May, doesn't matter. Whenever that barley is first ripe, that starts your first month. The first moon, when that happens, that's your first month. Doesn't matter what the equinox is, when the barley ripens. Now, when the moon comes around and you check for it, and it's the 12th month, and the barley isn't ripe, what do? You add a leap month. Nobody ever knows for sure when the leap month is going to be added. The barley's not ripe, okay, you got to wait till the next full moon, or the next new moon. When the next new moon is spotted, they go out and check the barley again. It'll be ripe by then. That's the first month. That is the first month. So you count from there. The 7th month is the fall feast days. I don't care if it lands in August, September, October, whatever. 7 months from that barley being ripe. It has nothing to do with the equinox. But you'll get these people, they'll make excuses. Well, we thought the rapture was going to happen on September 8th, but you know what? We found out that makes the holy days before the fall equinox. It's like human reasoning. But it's because people aren't educated with how they did things in the Old Testament. Crowds at Trump rallies and crickets for Biden. Yeah, it's always been crickets for Biden, always. Oh, by the way, that video I showed at the beginning of the stream, Jane, you ignorant slut, Noah O'Donnell, on CBS Evening News. It's got 242 likes, 387 dislikes. But when you read the comments, a lot of them are just the sheeple. Told ya. See, he got more votes. Biden got more votes. I'm gonna refresh this and see how that's changed. 242, 387.
Well, tonight.
289, 425. So the downvotes are still getting there. In case you missed the news, the real news, the fake news is reporting that Biden won by even more votes. The real news is, from Arizona, is it was so bad they need to decertify and call back the electors. You can get the details and the numbers. And the fake news came out with their results before they even had the press conference releasing the results. Reports say Jake, how can we be left behind if the rapture happened before we were born? Yeah, exactly, Cam Go. You surprised they would let you dislike it? Trust me, by morning they'll fix the algorithm and it'll have like 10 times more thumbs up than thumbs down. Back for more. In fact, 74,243 ballots were counted for which there is no corresponding record that they were mailed out. The margin was 11,000. 74,243. Yep, they're not only shameless with the lying sticks, but there's no accountability. No accountability. And it wasn't even attempted to be fixed. That's the shame. At least if you attempted, the people would have been made aware of it. John says, I based my theory off 7 being the number of completion with Christ being crucified in 31 AD. Then 2031 would be 2,000 years or 2 days, making Christ reign the seventh day. Hope that made sense. Opinion. Yeah, that makes sense. However, was 31 a possible year, 31 AD? I actually think he was crucified in 27 or 29 AD. Here's another thing. The years are screwy. You can't go by. You can't say, okay, it's been in the year 2000. It's been 2,000 years since Christ's birth or whatever. Forget that. I mean, that's like they took 2 dice and threw it down and said that's what our year is. First of all, this 33 AD that they usually give us, and 32. I'm not sure. 31 may work. You'll get what I'm saying in a minute. Christ had to be crucified on a Wednesday and rose Saturday evening. Had to be. There's no other way around it. Had to be. It can be proven. I can do a video proving it. It's tedious, but you can do it. And when they pick 33 AD and 1 or 2 of the other years that are common, I'm not sure if 31 is or not. When you go back and see when Passover was on that day, it was on a Friday. They pick a Friday on purpose. That's part of the lie. It's part of the cover-up. They get you from Friday evening, going into the grave at sunset, coming out of the grave Sunday morning before sunrise, and tell you that's 3 days and 3 nights. And then when you argue that, they say, don't you know, Rich, to the Jews, a partial day and a partial night counted. And you're like, okay, brain dead. Let's do the math on that one. Let's just give them Friday day, even though it was whatever. Friday day, it's 1. Friday night, that's 1 day, 1 night. Friday day, Friday night. Saturday day, Saturday night. Sunday day, 3 days and 2 nights. Can't get 3 days and 3 nights. No, not even a partial night on Sunday. 3 days, 2 nights. Can't get there. So many, and that was the one. That was the one thing that would prove that he was the Christ. Jesus said one sign would be given to him, the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so would the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Cannot be Friday to Sunday morning. But you can hide a lot of years maybe, or hide a lot of other bull crap too, by making that a lie. Skystone, absolutely, 100%, no doubt about it, he died on Wednesday. And these people say, no, it was Sunday. Oh, they needed to change it to Sunday. Sun worship, ball going around the sun. Sun is the center of it all. Everything revolves around the sun in the sky, not the Son of God. Very clever, very clever. But in the churches that say he was crucified on a Friday, this is how dumb the churches are. I'm sorry, but they're dumb. If I notice and they don't, they're dumb. They'll have the Sunday before, what do they call it? Palm Sunday, right? He rode in on Palm Sunday. Well, there's only 1 day of the year prophesied where he was going to come in. It was the 10th of Nisan. 10th of Nisan. And when you back up the days and look at it, it's like, oh, that's impossible. Couldn't have happened. Because he died on 14 Nisan, which is Passover. So if Nisan 10 was Sunday, Nisan 11 was Monday, 12 was Tuesday, Wednesday was the 13th, 14th was Friday. See, Rich, it works out. Sorry, you don't know how the Hebrews counted days. So if he came in on Sunday, 10th of Nisan, that night it turns into the 11th of Nisan at sunset. Sorry, that's how it works. 12th of Nisan would be Monday at sunset. 13th would be Tuesday at sunset. 14th would be Wednesday at sunset. 15th would be Friday at sunset. And here's another thing that most people don't pick out too. If you ever want to study this through, two things will tell you. John is the key to this. He calls the one Sabbath, for that was a high Sabbath. That means it wasn't the weekly Sabbath. It was another Sabbath. See, the holy days, Passover was not a Sabbath, but the other first day of unleavened bread, which was 15th of Nisan, which was the day after he was crucified, was the 15th. They had to get him off the cross because the Sabbath was drawing nigh. The 15th of Nisan, the first day of unleavened bread, Thursday, Wednesday evening to Thursday evening, the 15th of Nisan. They had to get him off the cross because that was the high Sabbath. They didn't call regular Sabbaths high Sabbaths. And then you'll find that the women, they couldn't shop or do stuff with the spices because of the Sabbath, right? That's the Thursday. Then Friday, they go buy spices. But then they couldn't get to the tomb in time because the Sabbath was coming. Watch the women very carefully. You'll prove it to yourself. Oh, that's the weekly Sabbath, Saturday coming. And then they couldn't get there till Sunday morning with the spices, right? And then everybody assumes, oh, they just missed him. They would have just been there 10 minutes earlier. They would have caught him coming out. No, he rose Wednesday evening at sunset, just like he went in at sunset, just like he said he would. So Wednesday would make sense because Good Friday would be resurrection. Actually, no, it's Good Saturday. It's Good Saturday. Good Saturday. Saturday, he rose at almost perfectly at 6 p.m. because at that time of year, it's spring. You have equal day, equal night. Oh, and these people that say there was darkness over the land for 3 hours, right? And they say that was a solar eclipse. So they say the moon, for whatever reason, stayed in front of the sun for 3 hours. What? First of all, they don't know their Old Testament. Passover was the 14th day of the month. 14th day of the month is a full moon 100% of the time. That's how you count the moon. First time you see the little sliver, that's day 1. A little bit bigger, day 2, 3, 4, 5. By the time you get to day 14, it's full. By the time you get to day 28, it's the last little sliver. And then it goes away for a couple days and comes back. 14th day, full moon. How did you have a solar eclipse in their model with a full moon? We always have it with a new moon, right? It's just little things if you just think them through a little bit. Rich says, thanks for clearing that. I thought I knew. This is new to me. Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah, prove it yourself. Follow the women. Follow the women. Follow the women. Pay particular attention to John. So does the Old Testament can be... John, when did you take an oath to go under the covenant agreement of the Old Testament? This is very simple. We are under the new covenant. First of all, we were never part of Israel. The Jews, I should say. A lot of people throughout the world were part of Israel. The different tribes settled different places. Dan settled in Denmark, for example. That's a different story. The Jews and original Israel, they were under a covenant where in a covenant, you say, I will do this if you will do that. And if you do that, I will do this, back and forth. Okay, we agree. Then you're in a covenant relationship. As a Christian, none of that was part of it. You accept Jesus Christ. He becomes your high priest. He agrees to propitiate your sin. He rectifies you. He makes you right with God. You repent, and it's a different repentance than under the Old Testament. The Old Testament, you repented of a deed. I stole. Well, repent of that deed. I stole again. Repent of that deed. I stole again. Repent of that deed. In the New Testament, you repent fully. You change your life. Your old life dies so that you're not going back stealing over and over again. It's a different kind of repentance. It's a repentance that leads you. It doesn't save you, but it leads you to salvation. Now, if you want to do unclean stuff and clean or whatever, like I say, I did it for 17 years. It's you. I did it for 17 years. Actually, I probably did it longer than that, because I did it for a year or so before I even entered the church. 17 years. But that's how I know all this stuff and how it fits together. That's why I know there's going to be at least 9 resurrections. That's why Paul didn't say, try to obtain to the best resurrection. He said, try to obtain to a better resurrection. Best means best of what? 1 and 2. Better is best of multiple. Study the feast, how the harvest were gathered in 3 times in a year, 3 different parts, 9 times. John says, I thought so. Just wanted your opinion. I don't understand people putting this on. I did it when we were freed by Christ. God bless, brother. Yeah, see, what I didn't have right was the covenant relationship. That we never were under that covenant, ever. And it's a good thing. Because under that covenant, you're bound under that covenant. Your agreement isn't just to eat clean and unclean. But 3 times a year, you have to appear before God in Israel, in Jerusalem specifically. You have to go to Jerusalem 3 times a year. If you don't, you're breaking it, just like you're eating pork. You couldn't break it. You had to keep it all. And no one could keep it all. But that you're obligated to do that. And you're not to appear empty-handed. It means cough up some coin. Or, turn over a turtle dove or whatever. Link to the PDF for videos. Let me see if I can, Brandon, let me see if I can find that for you. I had it earlier. Let it update here. Where was I seeing all this? Mike Pompeo he said Maricopa County fraudulently verified and approved mail-in ballots and a lot of other stuff. I got a message from Telegram saying don't do something. I was like, okay, and that's okay though. Utah says, maybe this is appropriate. We were told we would feel like all hope is lost. I am feeling optimistic that we are headed in the right direction. That's faith. We have to go through the process of law and order. The process of law and order in this country is not a process, it's a joke. This is an educational process for every American. Let's keep uniting. The public has shown, the public opinion is forming more and more each day. Okay. Got to get rid of the media. Got to fix the media. I think I might have it here. Hold on. Scroll back a little bit. I had it. There is a PDF, and I was going through it earlier, and I get interrupted. Important message. Now's the time, and we know why. Not every time, not everyone, all the things can be said clearly. Not every time all things, but we need from you to trust the plan, stop the rumors. Those who will have these Trump coins will be treated differently than the others. Yeah, I trust you. All you're there for is to sell something. You can't just give information. I'm searching one more place. Hold on a second. I think I can find it this way. I was hoping I could do a search and it would pop up. And the latest I'm getting is August. Everything else is earlier. Boy, they're doing a great job hiding this stuff. Let me see. Mia tools. Let me see if I can just get today. azfamily.com. Results from the partisan November election audit of Maricopa County showed President Biden still won, but Arizona State President Karen Fann said there should be a PDF here. So the report reveals other problems with the election, particularly when it came to cybersecurity and integrity of the votes. If there's 100 and some thousand votes that shouldn't have been counted, how can you know who won? I've given up hope on that stuff. I'm sorry, but I have. If I see it, I'm sorry. I don't know where it is. Maybe somebody else can find it. And boy and his daughter says, I think it's safe to say the only place white hats are going is to the gulag death camps with Q. They'll still be given dates when they get thrown in the boxcar. That's right, Jacob Lutz. There was somebody reported earlier, 74,000 of, I think, ballots that were received that were never mailed out, mailed-in ballots. You're talking about 17,000 duplicates. And they haven't looked at the machines. Here we are. I guess Mike Ball isn't on here. Nothing has come, as far as I know, of the subpoena to get the routers and all that. At least it hasn't happened yet. Now all I get is pictures. AG office says Maricopa County must provide routers. That was August 26th. They still don't have them. Oh, they made some kind of deal. That's right. They made some kind of deal where they're going to see them. There's like a third party going to handle them and show them all the information on it. But they were just saying that the in this audit here that there were files that were erased and written over. Shelley says AZ will not comply. This audit is a joke. The only thing that matters is the perception that's out there. And the perception is that this audit wasted $400,000 of taxpayer money, which they waste every millisecond of the day, and gave Joe Biden more votes and took a few away from Trump. Patrick says, accepting Sunday as 10th means Monday 11th, Tuesday 12th, Wednesday 13th, Thursday 14th, Friday 15th. That's correct. That's correct. So what day did you really write it on, Patrick? Yeah, John, I'll do my best. Just got this from, it's not even telling me the name. Sorry. The name was there, but I clicked on it. Oh, this is from, anyway, Breitbart, AZ Audit, no clear record of 74,243 mail-in ballots in Maricopa County. 74,243. Thank you for that. Why doesn't it give me your name? It did before I clicked on it. Sorry. Please answer John. John. Oh, I will. All right. Everything in the Old Testament is a pattern. Jesus Christ was the Lamb of God, right? They had the Passover lamb. All the different feasts, everything is all a pattern. As Paul said, there are shadows of things to come. They were a pattern. Even the tabernacle itself was a pattern of what was in heaven. Everything was a pattern. The sprinkling of the blood on the altar, all that represented Christ. Everything, it's perfect. But the resurrections are referred to as Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians, that a seed must die first. It's all agriculture, when you understand. It's a harvest. It's God harvests us. He puts in the sickle in Revelation. He sends an angel. Angels do the reaping. Jesus talks about that. They put a sickle and they reap the earth. It's all agricultural based symbolism. There isn't a literal sickle that's going to come through, but it's all the symbolism. And when you understand in the Old Testament, how did they bring in the harvest? They didn't just have one harvest and bring it in. That isn't how it worked. That would be one resurrection. The harvest and the resurrection, they're always married together in the thoughts. You had 3 different harvest periods. You had the spring harvest, which wasn't called spring, by the way. You had either winter or summer. That's what you had in Israel. It was winter or summer. You had this, but we call it the spring harvest because they come in spring. That's around the crucifixion time. The first, here's a perfect example. The first resurrection already happened, guaranteed. But no matter where we are in Revelation, the first resurrection already happened. When Jesus rose from the dead, others rose too, remember? And their bodies were seen, and they were seen in Israel, those who had recently died, those who had died. That was the first fruits. As Paul says, Jesus was the first fruits. So each harvest had a first fruits. That was just a small sample. In the spring, like I said, the month starts when they inspect the barley and the barley is ripe. What are they supposed to do? They take a small sheaf of the barley and they reap it. And then what they do is the priest then afterwards, is it the morrow after? The morrow after the Sabbath. Now, that's the morrow after the weekly Sabbath, after the holy day. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The priest waves it up to heaven like this. That's when Jesus went back to the Father. That was representation of that. But the first harvest, that barley, was Christ the first fruits. After that, those that are Christ that is coming. All right? I know this is a little dancing around. But anyway, that was just the very beginning of the spring harvest. The main crop of the field. Imagine a square field. Only a few sheep, one handful was cut. That's the first fruits, and it's called the first fruits. Then the main harvest matures. And the farmer was instructed to go out and gather in the harvest, cut it all down, except the corners. He was to keep the corners of his field standing. That was the main harvest. That belonged to the landowner, God. That belonged to God. That's the main harvest. The gleanings, which is the corners that are left, that is the people themselves come in and gather it up. They have to work to get it. It's not what's the word? It's not charity, so to speak, like we would say, like someone just gives it to you. No, you have to come in and you have to do the harvest work. You have to cut it down and do all the shucking of the corn, whatever you're taking. But that's the gleanings. That's 3 different harvests right there. That's in the spring. That's repeated. And the spring harvest, by the way, is very easy. It's barley. It doesn't require processing. It's ready to go. Christians. You get into the summer, it's wheat. Wheat, you have to separate the chaff, right, from the wheat. And the wheat itself, the grains have to be pounded out a little bit to be made ready, to be able to use it as bread or whatever, to make it usable. It's a little bit harsher. And there's some other things, too, that come in the summer harvest, but that's the main one. It's done in 3 parts, too. The first fruits, which is also what Pentecost was about. The 12 were given the Holy Spirit first, the first fruits. It wasn't given to the whole world. The main world didn't get it yet. Just the 12. Remember, Jesus blew on them. Twice he actually gave them, he blew on them once and or breathed on them, and they got the Holy Spirit. Then they got it again at Pentecost. They were all burned by the fiery tongues and all that. Anyway, that was the first harvest in the spring. In the summer. Then you had the main harvest, but everybody out, the whole world is given the opportunity to get the Holy Spirit. Then you'll have the gleanings at the end of that. That's the second. So you have first fruits, main harvest, gleanings. 3 in the spring, first fruits, main harvest, gleanings in the summer. In the fall, that's the harsh ones. That's the grapes and other things that have to be squashed and processed hard to be made right. You can't just pull them off. They're not in their final form when you pull them off, generally speaking. They had to be beat out or processed or whatever you want to call it. 3 of them. First fruits, main harvest, gleanings. That's 9 resurrections. Now, you're not going to find a Bible, thus says the Lord, because there's 9 harvests, parts of the harvest, there's going to be 9, whatever. But Paul indicates there's more than 2. And another word, too, that's not rendered right correctly today, where Paul says, is it Paul? Where he talks about the first resurrection. That doesn't mean the first. That's not what it means. It's more like a quality, or the quality of the resurrection, the first, the best resurrection. Doesn't mean there's only one. When you look it up, it's not, it's prime, but it doesn't mean it's the only. So anyway, that's how I get 9. Then you have everybody else who's not part of those 9. So that's at least 10. In my mind, that's me. Like I said, you're not going to see this is thus says the Lord, but that's where, I followed this stuff strictly for 17 years. I'm pretty good for about 18 or 19. I understand it. And I understand what symbols represent what in the New Testament. And it would be crazy to me for God to have 9 different parts. And he relates it all to harvest. Resurrections, Paul does. It's a direct tie-in. There's no dancing around it. They tie it directly in to the agricultural things. So for God to have one of the good people and one of the bad people resurrections, it was like, well, what was the purpose of all this? That means there was a pattern that he laid out in the Bible that had nothing to ever fulfill it. Jesus resurrected one time and that was enough. I didn't mean to indicate he resurrected more than once. He was part of the first fruits, though. He wasn't part of the main harvest. He was part of the first fruits, as it is written. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to go. Did I lose you, John? The Bible says we sleep until the second coming, and we are resurrected in Christ along with the dead. Isn't that just one? We as humans don't go through 9 resurrections. No. I didn't mean to indicate we as humans go through 9. Whatever your resurrection time is, you'll be resurrected once. But that doesn't mean all of humanity is resurrected at the same time. That's what I mean. All of humanity, to me, are going to require 9 resurrections to take care of all of them. Actually, 10. The Old Testament saints will come up in our resurrection, the first prime resurrection, whereas the Old Testament people not saints, they'll come up in a different resurrection. Not that we resurrect over and over. No. One time for each person. It's just a matter of which one you fit into. Yes, Leo, there is going to be a test on it. And it's after you're resurrected. And God's going, what do you mean you were told and didn't listen? No, I'm just kidding. Jesus taking on the sin of the world is the he-goat in the Old Testament, where the high priest, which Jesus is our high priest, he laid all the sin of Israel onto the goat. The goat was then let go in the wilderness, never to be seen from again, taken away forever. That represented Jesus, our high priest to God, taking away our sin forever. They were all patterns. Thanks, Iron. Oh, thank you, Leo. That's the best compliment I can get right there. You're a good teacher. I like that. You might not believe it, but hopefully I at least make it clear. I did not want to indicate that we have 9 resurrections. No, 1. Just 1. Yes, Kyle, we sleep until the resurrection. Our spirit, our breath goes back to Yahweh where it came from. Perfect. And that's how God sees us. We are asleep. Like Lazarus was asleep and they didn't get it. Finally, Jesus hit him one time and said, all right, he's dead, according to you. That's why he kept saying Lazarus sleeps. He called the dead people who weren't with him. Let the dead bury the dead. Jesus calls things differently than we do. God calls things differently than we do. He calls things that are not that they are, and all that stuff. Thank you back for more. I appreciate it. Jacob Law. Who was it? There was the same guy. What's his name? He was a engineer or scientist or something before he became a preacher. He actually did it's on YouTube. He actually did a video where a twinkling of an eye is 1/714th of a second, or some number. I don't know what the number was. Because it was like the shortest amount of time the time could be split. I was like, well, okay, but God didn't say it would be the shortest amount of time that time can be split. He just said a twinkling of an eye. I mean, I think that's pretty quickly. Catholics are under the law. Yeah, I really don't know if they are or not. I guess they are. A good friend of mine was Catholic, and stuff he told me, I guess that's true. See, we're free. We're free to do whatever we want, but we don't do whatever we want because we're led by the Spirit of God. If you're led by the Spirit of God, you want to do what is right. Good night, Bonnie. I'm gonna have a good night too. You have a great weekend yourself, Bonnie. Always good to see you on here. Where do we go when we die? Well, some go to hell, and some no. The spirit returns to God immediately, and our body stays wherever we get deposited or eaten by a shark or cremated or whatever until God reconciles the two together again. It just says they are. I was raised Catholic. Chuck Missler, thank you. Yes, he's the one. He's the one that came up with blueletterbible.org. And it doesn't matter if you're Christian, non-Christian, Buddhist, whatever. When you die, your spirit goes back to God. So, the people in your life aren't really dead. They're actually just sleeping. According to God, they're just sleeping. However, I think there's a difference after Jesus returned to God. No, I'm not saying no. I'm saying people are put into a category. Are you going to be in the first resurrection? And I don't mean the same first resurrection Paul's talking about now. Now I'm talking numbers. Let's just say there's 9 of them. Some people are going to be in the first one. Some are going to be in the second. Some are going to be in the third. Some are going to be in the fourth. Some are going to be in the fifth. Some are going to be in the sixth. Some are going to be in the seventh. Some are going to be in the eighth. Some are going to be in the ninth. Some in the ninth probably are the ones that come in at the last moment, just before the last thing happens. I don't know. I don't know how God is going to divide it out. But there's 9 different harvests. There's 9 different parts of the harvest. It's all really one resurrection. It's just different parts. I saw your thing earlier, a boy and his dog. You got it right. Oh, hell no. Chuck Missler. Now, see, I think Chuck Missler was wrong about a lot of stuff, but I'm 100% convinced he's a Christian. You don't have to be right about everything, that's for sure. Because none of us would make it, because nobody's 100% right about everything. How can I explain this, John? You have Joe over here who lived and died 10 years before Christ was born. All right? Doesn't matter where he lived, but let's just say he lived in Israel. He's an Israelite. He lived 10 years before Christ was alive and born. And I live now, long after he was resurrected and all that stuff. I will be in the first resurrection, whether that is a representation of the first one or the fourth or the 7th, which is the first of each of the 3. Because, no, I won't be in the first, because that's first fruits. I'll be in the main body. This person who was in Israel before, he's not in the same group as Christians. He didn't even have that opportunity. But it doesn't mean he's lost. We'll have to get into that maybe. But anyway, let's just say Joe was part of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he was wiped out in Sodom and Gomorrah. Some point, not the resurrection we get, because we get different stuff. Some people call it the Bema seat of Christ, where we get rewards. Our judgment is our rewards, not bad things. Our judgment is rewards. The Bema seat of Christ is what some people call it. Jesus said the people that died in Sodom and Gomorrah are going to be raised again and judge the generation that killed Christ. They're going to, and now how's that happen? That means they got to be resurrected, but they're not in our resurrection because they don't qualify for that. That's two different resurrections. Then you're going to have people that knew about Christ, didn't accept him. That's a different resurrection. Different categories, different strokes for different folks. The way I see it, God has divided it up at least into 9 pieces, I think 10. What is that? What did you post, Sticks? I can't, well, if I click on it, it ain't going to do anything, but. Yeah, and Vintage, think about that. Who's speaking? Paul speaking there. The law of the Spirit of life in Jesus Christ has made me free from the law of sin and death. He was under the Old Testament law. We were never under it. So Paul was actually more free than we were because he was free from that covenant. That's a different group. Yeah, we which are alive and remain. That's a different group. All the different categories through the ages can't all fit in 2 resurrections, in my mind anyway. Not when you really think it through. But you can believe there's one resurrection. It doesn't. It's not a. You're damned if you don't believe in 9 resurrections or 10 or 2 or 1, whatever. There's a resurrection of the dead. Period. I happen to believe because there was such a pattern and such an emphasis on the pattern that there's for a reason. And since the resurrection or resurrections are compared to harvest, it makes sense to me that, okay, let's look at the pattern of harvest. See, the gleanings, okay, they didn't belong to the landowner. If they didn't belong to God, they belonged to Satan. They came in and had to work the field themselves to get their food, to get their whatever. It makes sense when you really think it through. Paul wrote of his messages to believers, not unbelievers. That's true. But most of the believers, him himself, he was under the law. He talks about that a lot. The law as written in the Old Testament does not apply to anybody who wasn't in that covenant agreement. I don't know anybody today that is in that covenant agreement unless you're a Jew and decided you were going to follow that. Torah isn't written in our hearts yet. Torah is never going to be written in our hearts, in my mind. What does Paul say about the Torah? Just the reading of it causes a veil to come over your eyes. You start to you can't see clearly. Vintage, what are we disagreeing about? I think we're agreeing 100%. Now, if we want to really take Romans 8:2 to its completion, the law of the Spirit of life in Jesus Christ has made me free from the law of sin and death. Didn't say because he accepted it or believed it. He says the law of the Spirit of life in Jesus Christ. So like the passages I read before last week, nobody ever wants to admit, oh yeah, that's pretty clear, Rich. God saves the whole world. But for another time, let's not do it again. I got to go, guys. It's been 3 hours. Man, and we did a lot this week. 4, 7, 9, over 9 hours. That's pretty good for a week. I felt like we're applying Paul's writings to unbelievers, to believers. No, not at all. Maybe I misunderstood the first thing you were trying to say, but no, Paul was definitely to Christians. Paul's writings flesh out the gospel. Good night, outside the Matrix. Corey, do 3 more hours. If you really do. I do a vote, but all we have is Dominion machines to use. Cheers, Emerald. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good night, outside the Matrix. Thank you, Iron. I appreciate it. Yeah, God bless each and every one of you. Let him hold you till the next time we meet. Prayers to anybody who's sick, especially the one with the cancer. I hope a cure is forthcoming. We could all use miracles. Tim, you blasphemous person! You're gonna go to hell for saying this. Tim says 100% of who Jesus died for were forgiven at the cross. When it says that Jesus died for all men, this means Jews and Gentiles, not Jews only, but for every individual. Tim, all I can say about that is amen, brother. Amen. John, you think 3? That's cool. I could be totally wrong. It's just my theory. Like I said, it's not thus says the Lord, that's for sure. All right, good night, guys. God bless. Monday, 7:30 is the next due time. If everything works out okay, we'll be there then. Let's see how the spin goes this weekend with the news. Pretty disgusting how things have turned out, if you ask me. So anyway, we'll see. According to, who was it? Durham, we only have a week to wait now. Next Friday. That's our next date. Jesus will return before the date hits. I'm pretty sure. Shelly, peace out too from Arizona. Goodbye. Good night, Stanley. Cheers, Nikki. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.